And a very warm welcome to Mushonomics. This is our 14th class where we will be discussing tools to achieve inclusive growth. Right. So we are discussing right now third module, that is growth and development, and these are our social media handles: WhatsApp channel, Twitter handle, Insta handle, and the Telegram channel where you can get the discussion of the PDF of the discussion that we are having here, and continuous updates related to current affairs, etc. Right. So we are having 1:1 mentorship as well, where the personalized guidance is being given to the students for specifically for prelims as well as mains exams. Right. So let's begin our class, and today we will be talking about the policies or the policies. You will be getting this PDF, so no need to worry about. Just keep paying attention to the discussion that we are having here. So policies or tools to achieve to achieve inclusive growth. Right. To achieve inclusive growth. Now when we talk about inclusive growth, the main focus is in intragenerational equity. We in the last class we have seen what is intergenerational equity as well, when we talk about environmental conservations, etc., and not only limited to environmental conservation, rather related to sustainable debt management also. Right. So when we talk about policy to achieve inclusive growth, here mainly we talk about intragenerational equity. Now what do we mean by intragenerational equity? Within the same generation. When we talk about the word intra means within same generation, within the same generation. And when we talk about intergenerational, within the same generation, and when we talk about intergeneration, that intergenerational equity that we saw in the last class about intergenerational means the current generation with next generation, equity among current generation with next generation or future generation. Right. So this is intergenerational, and that's why here we talk about mainly environmental and environmental and debt management. Right. But when we say debt management, when we say intragenerational equity, that means we are talking about within the same generation. So what do we mean by intragenerational equity then? So intragenerational equity means when equity in distribution of resources is targeted among people in same generation. That means that is people who are living at same point of time. It is called intragenerational equity. It is called intragenerational equity. Right. So I hope you understood this. Okay, so let's continue with this. So this is the first thing that we want to understand. We are talking about intragenerational equity. Now this intragenerational equity can be achieved through five policies, combination of 5 policies or tools that we are discussing now. So the first tool that we have to discuss in this is development of physical infrastructure. Development of physical infrastructure. So what are the advantages of it? Development of Okay, so it was a technical glitch. So we are talking about development of physical infrastructure. So what do we mean by physical infrastructure? See, when we talk about physical infrastructure, this is urban rural migration, etc. This is taking place. This is one of the reason to put more burden on urban infrastructure when we are not having civic amenities or basic infrastructure that is needed for survival and to do business, to earn economic livelihood, etc. These things are if not available in rural areas, then it induces the migration from rural to urban, and which may cause the overburdening on the infrastructure in the urban area, right? You name any mega city or any metropolitan city today, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, all these cities are overburdened, right? So why these cities are overburdened and how we can manage? So one of the tool that we can do is we can develop the periphery, and if we provide what Dr. APJ Kalam talked about, pura, PURA, providing urban amenities in rural areas, providing urban amenities in rural areas, urban amenities in rural areas, right? So if we can provide these things in rural areas, then maybe the migration we can put a check on this rural to urban migration. Not only that, if we can build infrastructure, if we can build road network, rail network, road network, rail network, etc., port development, if we can do these things, then what we can do basically, a person in rural area can live in rural area only, and because of good infrastructure he can go to an urban area, work there, and again come back. He need not to stay there in a in urban area. He will not be having to take accommodation and live there, and maybe he will not be having access to a good civic amenities because of some slum areas there. If he is living in some slum area, so he will not be having access to good quality services, right? Basic civic amenities as well. So, and if he go there in urban area and he work there and he come back to rural area again, his most of the spending will be in rural area, most of the spending will be in rural area. And if most of the spending is in rural area, the rural economy will also grow, right? So this is one of the advantage that we are having when we talk about urban development of basically rural infrastructure. And physical infrastructure, when we develop this kind of infrastructure also we can make. So what is physical infrastructure basically? So physical infrastructure consist of growth of basic production capacity through improvements in transportation, power generation, and communication, which can contribute to enhance standard of living, which can contribute to enhance standard of living, right? For example, road development, when we say, for example, road development connecting rural to urban areas will help in connecting many workers, that we have understood, right? It will help in connecting many workers in rural areas, many workers in rural areas and enhance their, they can go there, they can work there and come back, right? So enhance their earning capacity without increasing their cost of living, because they can come back, right, without increasing their cost of living, right? So I hope you understood this. Similarly, if we talk about electrification, so similarly, electrification or power supply, electrification or power supply in a region will ensure that there are longer hours of work. People are not depending only on sunlight, right? So longer hours of work, higher level of mechanization. Electricity, basic input is for mechanization, the basic input, one of the basic input is electrification, right? So higher level of mechanization, better education and healthcare possibilities, better education and healthcare possibilities, right, as better machines can be used, and new business opportunities for example cold storage chain, etc. So new business opportunities like cold storage chain, movie theater, etc. Can be developed, right? So all of these means what? All of these means employment opportunities. And hence, if employment opportunities are there, that means upliftment of vulnerable section. Upliftment of vulnerable section, right? So I hope we understand this. For example, we talked about three things here, right? We talked about road, rail and communication. Now let's understand how communication development helps, right? So we discussed here transportation, power generation and communication. Now let's understand how communication helps better. So communication development, the infrastructure for communication. So communication development leads to reduction in search cost, that is the cost for finding better alternatives. So reduction of search cost. What do we mean by reduction of search cost? Cost of finding the best alternative. For example, Google. Now if we want to go somewhere and we want to have food, etc., or maybe we are looking for a stay and hotels like that, so we can go there. We are booking tickets online, flight booking, train booking, right? So all these things help in this only. So it leads to reduce of search cost or reduction of search cost, that is cost of finding best alternative by faster spread of internet or by faster spread of information, right? By faster spread of information. This can help people in getting better quality product, good job, savings, resources, and therefore contribute in improving standard of living for all. Right? So these are the things that we can talk about developing physical infrastructure, right? Now the second policy that we can talk about here is development of civic amenities, development of clean drinking water, etc. So development of civic amenities. What things are there under civic amenities? Let's understand. What things are there under civic amenities? Let's understand, right? So number one, when we talk about civic amenities, so for example, civic amenities like clean drinking water, clean drinking water, sanitation, drainage, right? Sanitation, drainage facility, improved housing facility, improved housing facility, better public transportation. These are civic amenities, right? Better public transportation, development of community building where people can live and they can have a community of themselves, development of community buildings. For example, marriage hall, a community marriage hall, right? So in Delhi you may see in some areas there is community hall, right? So like this community buildings, etc. This will lead to reducing cost of living, reducing cost of living for poors, and enhancing their standard of living, right, through public provision of these facilities. So anybody can access this, right? Public provision of these facilities, right? So these are civic amenities that we can develop, right? Now let's understand the third thing that we can talk about, the policies of inclusive growth, and that is financial inclusion. Now what do we mean by financial inclusion? Number one, what do we mean by financial inclusion? So financial inclusion, it is nothing but when people get opportunity to participate in financial system, when people get opportunity to participate in the financial system and upliftment of their standard of living, upliftment of their standard of living, right? For example, then it is accounted as part of financial inclusion. Now for example, Jandhan Aadhaar, and what do we get through financial inclusion? Access to bank account, so DBT can be transferred, direct benefit transfer, government can transfer money into your account, right? You get DBT facility. What happens when you have your own account, that you can have credit facilities available also, right? So credit inclusion will be there, right? Which is subset of financial inclusion. Insurance facilities will be available there, right? So these are the things where financial inclusion, your financial identity, your bank account, right? So you can do many other things, for example doing business, so transaction simplicity when your bank account is on your phone, right? So these things are there when we talk about financial inclusion, right? So what things, let's see in detail what things are there. So it can be achieved through banking, it can be achieved through banking inclusion, that is giving accessibility to bank account, giving accessibility to bank account for all. That is why inclusion, a bank account for all. Bank account for all. Example, we are having Jan Dhan Yojana, right? Jan Dhan Yojana. Bank account gives financial identity. Bank account gives financial identity. Financial identity, where subsidy or loans can be transferred to the account. Loans can be transferred to the account, right? Transferred to the account. These things are there. Now financial inclusion also includes credit inclusion that we have talked about, that is loans, right? Accessibility to cheaper loans for all, such that people can have the courage to practice new businesses, or crop diversification of the farmers. Maybe if credit is available, maybe farmer can take risk and he can go for crop diversification by farmers, right? Crop diversification. And people taking new risk and starting new businesses. So new businesses, right, etc. These things are there. So we are having, suppose, PM Kisan scheme, right? Kisan Samman Aay Nidhi scheme, right? So PM Kisan scheme we are having. Mudra Yojana we are having for loans for MSME sectors, right? This Shishu, Kishore and Tarun loans that we are having. Shishu, Kishore and Tarun loans we are having for small enterprises, right? So these things are there. Kisan credit card is also there, right? Kisan credit card is also there. These things are related to financial inclusion, right? So it also considers insurance inclusion as well. Insurance inclusion can also be a part of this financial inclusion. Then people will demand insurance as well. For example, health insurance, business insurance, crop insurance, right? So health, business, crop insurance, Fasal Bima Yojana we are having. So crop insurance, these things will be there, right? So these can contribute in encouraging small businessmen or small farmers to take calculated risk, because now your things are insured, right? You have taken insurance on these things. So these are related to the financial inclusion. Now the fourth policy that we can talk here is education, inclusive education. Now let's understand what exactly the things are there when we talk about inclusive education. So let's understand here. See, what are the contribution of education? So education contributes in following ways. Education contribution first. Let's see. Contribution to inclusive growth. Contribution to inclusive growth. So what are the contribution of education in inclusive growth? Let's see. So number one, it improves skill development. So it improves skill development. So when skill development is there, that means it will contribute in earning opportunities. Right? So number one, this contribute in earning opportunities. So inclusive education. Second thing that education do, it improves information set. And therefore it helps in taking better decisions. Or on choosing this economic opportunities, right? So these things are there. What more education do? So it provides individual the skill to adapt quickly. So number 3, adapt quickly to change in, or to changes in technology, right? Changes in technology. These things are there. in which manner how education helps in inclusive growth. Right now, there are steps. What steps we can take to promote inclusive education? So, to promote inclusive education, what step we can have to promote inclusive education? So number one, the first and foremost thing is infrastructure at school, right? So there should be better infrastructure at school, right? Number two, the accessibility to education. How the for example, teacher absenteeism is there. So accessibility to education by reducing to education, accessibility to education by reducing teacher absenteeism. If teachers are not there in government school, they are not coming, they are employed but they are not visiting school sometimes, so teacher absenteeism, I hope you can recall. Maybe you have heard about it, that people who are there in second standard, third standard, sometimes they used to sit together. In government school, it happens, not in private school. So second standard, third standard, or fourth, fifth, sixth standard students, they are sitting in one class only because teachers are not there. So one teacher is taking care for three classes. These things were there earlier, and now also in rural areas it is there. In urban areas the situation has improved, but then also the teacher absenteeism, this is not the only cause. Teachers may have been given some other government duty, or maybe the census that will be happening soon, so the kind of census duty, etc. So these election duty, there are many duties that are being given to teachers, and that amount to loss in education as well, right? So these things are there. Improve curriculum. So curriculum improvement, so that the curriculum should be in sync with the requirement of industries. I'm talking about higher education, right? So requirement of industries, right? So these things are there, right? Now the fifth policy, or the fifth tool that we can talk about to achieve inclusive growth, that is inclusive healthcare. And what do we mean by inclusive healthcare? So World Health Organization defines inclusive healthcare. So as per WHO, as per World Health Organization, WHO, healthcare is inclusive. Healthcare is inclusive if it fulfills following condition. Number one, accessibility to clean drinking water. Accessibility to clean water, right? Nutrition, accessibility to nutrition. Accessibility to sanitation. Number three, sanitation. And number four, accessibility to trained medical professionals. These things are there. As per the WHO, these things are the requirement for inclusive healthcare. Now what government should do? Government should increase the health expenditure. So government should increase health expenditure at least to 2.5% of GDP. So health expenditure up to, or health expenditure at least to 2.5% of GDP, right? And assure that this money gets spent efficiently. So efficient expenditure. So number one, it has to increase the amount or increase the percentage of GDP being spent on healthcare infrastructure and healthcare inclusion, healthcare schemes, etc., right? These things. And number two, efficient expenditure should be done, right? Otherwise, what will be happen if we are not targeting and if we are not efficient with respect to our expenditure, then it will amount to the wasteful expenditure, right? So that should be curbed, and these things should be done to get inclusive healthcare, which will give us the inclusive growth that we are talking about, right? So these are the policies that we discussed today, and from the next class, we will be in the next session, we will be discussing about the human development. Now we will be discussing about human development. So how human development we will be discussing, the human development report and human development index, multi-dimensional poverty index, etc. These things will be there in the next session. How these indices are being calculated, what is the position of India in global happiness index, global hunger index. These things we will be discussing in the next session. Till that time, you can have access to YouTube lectures, and you can have access to this PDF and this Telegram group with the name Mushonomics, and this is the WhatsApp channel or WhatsApp number we are having, so you can call and you can discuss your things. And I hope this series will help you in your prelims exam, right? So take care, bye bye.